Welcome to SharePoint JSON list formatting training. In this training session, I'm going to show you how you can add view and edit buttons directly to your SharePoint list. This is my favorite template that I use in SharePoint. It's my favorite because it's the most useful. I can use this to add an easy edit button link that I can click instead of having to use the context menu or select the item first. I think you'll find it useful too. If you want to learn how to do JSON formatting in SharePoint lists, this training's for you. Let's begin. The first thing you should do is click the link in the description, which will take you to this training content. You want to pop this open in a new tab so that you can follow along and do this training as you watch the video. In the top, you're going to see sections on introduction and prerequisites and resources. If this is your first training in the series, make sure that you check out that information. This was covered in depth in a previous video. Once you've gotten through that, we can get to our training content. Just click on the View/Edit button, and that will take you to that section of the training. In order to use this template, we need something which I refer to as a placeholder field. You can click this link for in-depth instructions. I'll describe it to you right now. What I want is a calculated field to hold my formatting. I've created a calculated field called form and just displaying the value text. I don't really care what's in the field. It's just a place to apply my JSON formatting. So if I go to the list settings, I'll show you exactly what I mean. I've created a field. It's a calculated field returning a text value. I called it form. You could call it whatever you like. And I just display the value edit. That's not actually used in our formatting template, but it's just a way to put this placeholder content in there so that I've got an area in my interface to show my formatted code. This will make a little bit more sense to you once you've applied the template. So this is the spot where my edit button is going to appear. This template that we're doing is very much the same depending on whether you're doing an edit button or a view button. You just switch out a couple things in the template and it's going to give you what you want. At the top of the training, it shows you the HTML that's going to be produced by this JSON formatting code. We've got a div element inside of which is a button. That's what users are going to click, and it's going to either take them to the view form or the edit form, depending on what we set in the attributes. Inside of that, we've got a div, and this is going to hold an icon and a label saying edit or view or whatever you specify. At the very beginning, we need to provide a reference for SharePoint so it knows what type of template we're going to create. This is a column formatting template, so we're going to reference that in the schema. You don't have to memorize that URL. It's used over and over again, so you'll just copy and paste each time you start a new template. Next thing we're going to do is add some styling to the main div. We want this to use a flex display property, and we want it to do justify content center. So this is just adding a little bit more code to help it know how to display this button that we're going to put into the code. Next, we're going to build out more of the structure. We need to have a button inside of this that'll have the custom row attribute. Now, depending on whether you're doing an edit or view button, you're going to change the attributes so that it takes a different action. For a view button, it will use the default click attribute, whereas if it's a edit button, we want to use edit props for that attribute. Also, we're going to do some color styling and things like that. So a lot of key updates happening in this step. Let's zoom in, take a closer look. Here's our button element. we're specifying the custom row action. This is where you're going to make an adjustment depending on what you're doing. If we specify default click, this will act as a view button. It will open up the view form where we're not editing fields in the SharePoint record. If instead I use the action edit props, all as one word, that instead will open up the edit form. It's literally that simple, just switching between those two things. In here, we've got references to Microsoft color classes and then some CSS styling on the button below that. All right, we're ready to move on to the next section. We need a div inside, and we're going to do a lot of styling with that to make things look nice. So we'll continue to build out our code, and inside of that is going to be a div, and this is how we're getting the button appearance. We're going to have padding, a box shadow effect so it looks like a button, and then we're going to have a curve around the edge. All these things are setting it up to look like a nice looking button that our users will know that they can click. We have one last step, which is adding some final attributes into our code. Let's take a look at that. In this case, we're specifying an icon to be displayed in the button and doing some styling for that part, as well as including the text, which is going to be displayed on the button. Again, you're going to want to make an update depending on whether you're doing a view or an edit button. You can change that accordingly. You can copy this code by just clicking Copy to Editor. And in my case, I want to do Edit button, so I am going to make some adjustments. So instead of default click, I'm going to change the action to Edit Props. And then additionally, I don't want the button to say View in its text content property. I need to switch that. I want it to say Edit because this is going to open up the edit form for me. That's it. Those are the only adjustments I need to make to switch it to that mode. Now I'm ready. I can click the green copy button, come back to SharePoint, go to the column header, column settings, then format this column. In this window, click on advanced mode and then select all and paste. I've saved that and you can see I've got my button in the view. This is going to open the edit form when I click on it for that individual SharePoint list record. Now I've made things easier for users. Instead of having to select a record and then click edit, now I can just click the button and go directly to the form. So a lot easier user experience. You can, if you wish, show an edit button column next to a view button column. That's also something that's possible. You can show those side by side. In fact, if I go up in my training content, on the preview, you can see there's a template where that was done exactly. We've got an edit button and a view button side by side. There's a lot of possibilities on how you might style this button. You can play around with the style attributes directly. Another great thing to do is to click on the live preview. It will take you to another page where you can look at other versions of that template. So you can make the text larger, or you could choose different icons. Icon options are available if you click on the icon button. That will give you a pop-up window where you can click and see different possibilities. And of course you can use whatever text, font size, background colors. All of those things are configurable according to whatever you like. If I click on these color options, I can see some of those different possibilities. So whatever you want to do to configure it to look nice in your SharePoint environment. Okay, so that was the View and Edit button template in the SharePoint JSON formatting training. Hopefully this helped you understand how the code is put together to build templates, especially button templates, using the Microsoft API for list view formatting. If you like this training, I hope you'll check out the other training videos in this series and work through each of these examples, and that will help you better understand how to format your JSON code and display your elements in your views exactly the way you want. Good luck.